What's the simplest, easiest, most universal form of astrology? Zodiac signs. But how do we answer the simple question, what's your sign? Should I use my birthday and say I'm a Leo because that's my sun sign? Should I break out a lunar calendar and say I'm a Gemini because that's my moon sign? Should I go all the way and have a chart calculated and say I'm a Capricorn because that's my rising sign? In most cases, each step forward feels a little bit better or more complete than the next, but all of them tend to leave you feeling a little bit oversimplified. So it was a little over 3 months ago when I set out to develop a technique that would answer this simple question, what's your sign, in a way that would be still relatively simple, but wouldn't overlook any detail of any planet in any of your charts and all of your zodiacal subcharts. And after 3 months of concentrating on it and working on it, it's finally done. And now I'm ready to share it with you. The easiest way you can avail yourself of this technique is to go to my website and order the True Signs reading. Something that will calculate everything for you and tell you your true signs overall and for each planet. In this video and the couple that will follow it, I'll show you exactly what's involved in the technique behind that reading. So to teach you this technique will probably take about 4 videos. And so the roadmap for the videos is, first, I'll show you how to apply the technique just to your main chart. Then in the next episode, I'll show you how to apply it to all your subcharts. Then in the third episode, I'll show you how to reorganize the information to look at the sign balance per planet, because that's important a lot of times if you want to know something about a specific trait. And then the fourth episode, which will probably be the last one, will explain to you how to figure out the positivity and the negativity involved in these signs so that you can make interpretations. With those 4 episodes, you'll really understand what's happening under the hood of that new reading that I'm offering on my site. The link to the reading is in the description, of course. Now let's get started with the simplest version of this technique. I'll just show you how to figure out your true sign, your actual sign balance, based only on your main chart. So this is absolutely the simplest version of the technique. So it's a great way to get familiar with the essence of what the technique is. And it's also very handy because you can use this technique even if you don't know anything about subcharts, and even if you don't even know what degrees your planets are at in their signs. So to illustrate the step-by-step of how to do it, let's ask Marilyn Monroe to participate. So here's Marilyn's main chart. Once you know how to apply the technique to this chart, you can apply it to your chart or any chart. So the technique has 3 steps to it. In step 1, we just have to make a note of each sign that each planet occupies. In step 2, we then give a point to each occupied sign. And in step 3, you tally up the points that each sign has. Now, unless your brain is very numerically oriented, it's usually pretty difficult to just work with this kind of data. So I encourage you to visualize it in some kind of graph or something like that. This is how I visualize it in the report, the True Signs report that I was talking about that you can get from my site. So now looking at this graph, it's much more easy and intuitive to see. And it shows us Marilyn as a Gemini Aquarius hybrid. Now, this is surprisingly useful for understanding Marilyn Monroe. The reason why I say surprising is because this is the simplest, most basic form of the technique that I'm going to show you and the technique that I use in my True Signs report. And even in its simplest, most basic form, it's still very easily giving us very clear, accurate, useful information. To say that Marilyn is a Gemini Aquarius hybrid is really eloquent because the Gemini shows her expressiveness, her wit, and her intellect as well. While Aquarius contrasts that with the Saturnian self-imagery that was going on behind the scenes. And also, it depicts Marilyn very accurately as an empathetic human being. And you see what I mean by a relatively simple answer to the question, what's your sign? You wouldn't confuse people too much if you say, I'm a Gemini Aquarius. Sure, they would have to scratch their head for a second. But it's not like saying, well, my ascendant is at 4 degrees of Leo trying to Jupiter. You know, it's not going down that rabbit hole. It's fairly simple, yet it's extremely succinct and accurate. Now I can show you one more step for this technique, even in the simplest form. In this step, we'll take into consideration the fact or the convention that not every planet is equally important relative to signs. Like, you know, the big three for signs are the ascendant, the sun, and the moon. So if we want to incorporate that into the assessment of what your real sign is, what your true sign is, then we can simply weight the points. Instead of giving 1 point to each planet and each sign across the board, we can give differing amounts of points to particular planets. So what I personally do in the report is I give the ascendant 1 point. I give the moon 3/4 of a point, the sun 1/6 of a point, and the rest of the planets 1/2 of a point. This reflects the sense of how significant it is that that particular planet is in that sign. So now if you tally that per sign, Marilyn Monroe is described as an Aquarian, Gemini, Leo. And this has actually made quite an important difference. It's added a dimension of accuracy to the assessment. The reason I say that is because this trio of Aquarius, Gemini, Leo is extremely entertainment oriented as a triad, because you're matching the third sign, Gemini, with the 11th sign, Aquarius. So you're matching these two air signs, which like to interact with people, with Leo, the very theatrical and dramatic zodiac sign that signifies comfort in a central or spotlight position. And it's also increased the accuracy of the Saturnian self-image that Marilyn had behind the scenes. And I say this because now what you're doing is you've got Leo, which is very self-confident, and putting it equally on equal footing with Aquarius, which is the exact opposite. It's very self-diffusing. Then right in the middle of both of them, also equal to them in the balance, is Gemini, which is very interactive. So the whole mixture comes off as this complexity of contrast between self-confidence and self-doubt or self-diffusion, mixed with the need to interact and the need to be known by other people, which is really an ideal descriptor of Marilyn in just 3 words. Now you can go and use this technique on the charts of your family and your friends. Make sure you stay tuned for the next episode in the series. So subscribe and hit the bell and all that stuff. Because the next episode, I will show you how to really increase the accuracy and the depth of the accuracy, really, by using all of the subdivisions of the main chart as well. Don't forget that you can get that full picture of all of the subdivisions and everything for yourself, complete with all the interpretations, by going to my website, victorcara.com, clicking on the readings button and getting the true signs reading. You feel free to get the other readings as well. I will see you next time. Thank you very much.